Act 1 of Iphigenia by Jean Racine, translated by Robert Bruce Boswell. This is a Librivox recording. All Librivox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Introduction to Iphigenia. Racine's version of the time-honored story of Iphigenia was acted for the first time in 1674. The model upon which it is shaped is the Iphigenius in Aulis of his favorite Euripides. But the French poet has heightened the romantic interest and complicated the plot by the important part which Eriphyle is made to play, a character which he derived from Pausanias and other writers, though her jealousy of Iphigenia, her treachery, and suicide are due to his own invention. According to Aeschylus and Sophocles, the daughter of Agamemnon was actually slain at Aulis, and the graphic description of Lucretius, which embodies this view of the catastrophe, De Rerum Natura, Libro 185, etc., has furnished Racine with one touch at least of exquisite pathos. It was I who called thee first by the dear name of father. Act 4, Scene 4. According to Euripides, a faun was substituted for the maiden by divine interposition at the last moment, and Iphigenia herself was spirited away in a cloud to serve as priestess to the shrine of Artemis, Diana, among the Tauri, the savage inhabitants of what is now Crimea. Ovid, in his Metamorphoses, Libro 12:31, etc., adopts this myth, and the genius of Goethe has presented it fresh to the modern world in a drama which bears as close a relation to the Iphigenia in Tauris of Euripides as this play does to Iphigenia in Olyde. The tradition that Racine has followed introduces another Iphigenia, a daughter of Helen by Theseus, as the actual victim. How far he has succeeded in disarming our sympathy with Eriphyle is a matter that admits of dispute, but there is at least a dramatic justice in representing her destruction as the result of her own treachery. Characters.
Agamemnon, read by Greg Giordano.
Achilles, read by Alan Mapstone.
Ulysses, read by Todd.
Clytemnestra, wife of Agamemnon, read by Sonia.
Iphigenia, daughter of Agamemnon, read by Jen Broda.
Eriphyle, daughter of Helen and Theseus, read by Diana Kennedy.
Arcas, servant of Agamemnon, read by Thomas Peter.
Euripides, servant of Agamemnon, read by Mark Kelly.
Iphigenia, attendant of Clytemnestra, read by Sandra Schmidt.
Doris, friend of Eriphyle, read by Joanna Michael Hoyt.
Stage directions read by Larry Wilson. The scene is laid at Aulis, in the tent of Agamemnon. Act 1, Scene 1. Agamemnon, Arcas.
Ay, it is Agamemnon, 'tis thy king, that wakes thee. His the voice that strikes thine ear.
Oh, is thou indeed, my lord? What grave concern has made thee leave thy couch before the dawn? A feeble light scarce lets me see thy face. No eyes but ours are open yet in Aulis. Hast thou caught any sound of rising winds? And can it be that heaven has heard our prayer this night? Nay, all are sleeping. Winds and waves asleep's the host.
Happy the man content with humble fortune, free from the proud yoke, 'neath which I bow, who lives a life obscure, thanks to kind heaven.
How long, my lord, hast thou thought thus? What secret injury has worked this hatred and contempt of all the honours that heaven's rich bounty has on thee bestowed? Blessed is king, sire, and husband, son and heir of Atreus, the most favoured land in Greece is thine, and thou canst boast kinship with Jove both by direct descent as well as marriage. And young Achilles now, to whom the gods promise such fame by all their oracles, sues for thy daughter's hand, and at the flames of burning Troy would light the nuptial torch. What glory, sire, what triumphs can be matched with this grand sight displayed along these shores? 1,000 vessels and a score of kings, all waiting here but for the winds to sail neath thy command. 'Tis true this tedious calm delays thy conquests, and for 3 months chained the winds have blocked thy course to Troy too long. Supremely honoured thou art yet immortal, nor has thy life from fortune's shifting breeze been promised happiness without alloy. Soon. But what troubles in that letter traced force from thine eyes, my lord, a burst of tears? Is thine Orestes doomed in infancy to death? Clytemnestra dost thou weep, or for Iphigenia? Prithee, tell me what is writ there.
Thou shalt not die. No, never will I consent.
My lord.
Thou seest my grief. Learn thou its cause, and judge if I can rest. Thou dost remember when, in Aulis gathered, our ships seemed summoned by the winds to sea. Our sails unfurled, 1,000 cries of joy already carried threats to distant Troy. When lo, a sudden marvel hushed our shouts. The favouring breeze deserted us in port. In vain the oars smote the unruffled deep. We were constrained to stop the fruitless toil. That wondrous portent made me turn mine eyes toward the goddess who is worshipped here. With Menelaus, Nestor, and Ulysses, I sought her shrine and offered secret victims. What was her answer? Ah, with what distress I heard these awful words from Calchas' lips. The force ye arm to conquer Troy is vain, unless with rites of sacrifice and prayer. Upon Diana's altar here be slain, a maid of Helen's blood, divinely fair. T'obtain the welcome wind that heaven denies, 'tis needful that Iphigenia dies.
Thy daughter!
Thou mayst fancy how I felt. Astonishment that seemed to freeze my blood. Speechless I stood, while my sole utterance was in 1,000 choking sighs expressed. Then cursed the gods, and without hearing more, vowed on their altars I would disobey them. Ah, would that I had trusted love's alarm, and instantly disbanded all the host. Ulysses seemed content with what I wished, nor checked the torrent of my angry words. But soon, returning to his cruel wiles, he set before me honor and the claims of country, kings, and people to my sway. Subject and sovereignty o'er Asia promised. To Greece how could I sacrifice, he asked, the state to save a daughter, and go home disgraced forever? I confess with shame, my power had yet some charm, and I was full of pride. Those sounding titles, King of Kings, Leader of Greece, tickled my swelling heart. To crown my trouble, every night the gods, oft as light slumber gave me rest from care, avenged their cruel altars, and reproached my sacrilegious pity, brandishing the lightning's bolts before my dazzled eyes. With arm already raised, as if to punish my fault, I yielded, conquered by Ulysses, and with wet eyes ordered my daughter's death. But from a mother's arms she must be torn. I had to have recourse to base deceit. Achilles loved her, and I wrote to Argos, as if at his request, saying that he, eager to start with us, wished for her presence, that he might wed her ere we sailed for Troy.
Fearest thou not Achilles' quicken quarrel? Dost think this hero, armed by love and reason, will calmly let his name be thus abused to expedite her murder, and be dumb, seeing his loved one slain before his eyes?
Achilles was not here. His father Peleus, fearing the efforts of a neighboring foe, had, as thou wilt remember, called him from us, and there was every cause to think this war would have detained him longer than it did. But who can stop that torrent in its course? Achilles goes to fight, and wins forthwith. The victor, pressing on the heels of fame, arrived last night, and now is in the camp. Yet stronger motives paralyze mine arm. My daughter, who is hastening to her death, far from suspecting such a dreadful sentence, is pleased, perchance, her father is so kind. My daughter, name that in itself is sacred, so near in blood, so young, yet not for that I mourn, but for her virtues and the love between us, tenderness in me, in her a piety that nothing can outweigh, for which I promised a more meet return. Can I believe thy justice, gracious heaven, approves this dark and savage sacrifice? Thine oracles but put me to a test, and thou thyself wouldst punish my obedience. Arcas, to thee this private task I trust. Herein display thy prudence and thy seal. The queen, who found thee faithful when at Sparta, has placed thee near my person. Take this letter, and go to meet the queen without delay. Post haste thy course pursuing toward Mycenae, whom when thou seest, forbid her to advance, giving to her this letter I have written. Beware thou stray not, take a trusty guide, if once my daughter dear sets foot in Aulis, her life is lost. Calchus, who waits her here, will with a voice from heaven drown our cries, the voice of angry gods, to which, alarmed, the Greeks will hearken, and to that alone, those too, whose proud ambition loathes my glory, will reassert their claims with fresh intrigues, rob me of power offensive in their eyes. Go, save her from my weak irresolution, but prithee let not zeal outrun discretion. Give her no inkling of my wretched secret, but, still deceived, let not my daughter know the danger whereunto I had exposed her. Spare me the outcry of an angry mother, and with thy voice confirm what I have written, to send the daughter and the mother home. I tell them that Achilles' mind is changed, and that he wishes to postpone this marriage, for which he was so keen, till his return. Add that the secret of this sudden coldness is thought to lie with fair young Eriphyle, whom he himself from Lesbos brought a captive, and who is kept at Argos with my daughter. That is enough to say, and on all else be silent. See how grows the light of day. I hear a sound of voices. 'Tis Achilles. Go! And, good heavens, Ulysses follows him.
Scene 2. Agamemnon, Achilles, Ulysses.
Prince, can it be with such a rapid course that victory has brought thee back to Aulis? Are these the first flights of an unfledged valor? What triumphs will succeed such grand exploits? All Thessaly reduced to peace and conquest, of Lesbos made while waiting our departure. These would be trophies of eternal glory, to any other but to thee the sport of idle moments.
Sir, my slight successes are too much praised. May heaven that now detains us soon show a nobler field to rouse the heart, that fain would prove itself worthy of prize so rare as that thou offerest. But, my lord, am I to trust a rumour that I hear with joy? dost deign so to promote my wishes? Am I so soon the happiest of mortals? 'Tis said Iphigenia comes to Aulis, and soon our fortunes will be linked together.
My daughter, who has told thee she comes hither?
What is there to astonish thee in this?
Agamemnon aside to Ulysses.
Heavens! Can my fatal stratagem have reached his ears?
The king's astonishment is just. Dost thou forget how dark is all around us? Nay, by the gods, this is no time for weddings. While idly float our vessels, from the sea shut out, our forces wasting, and all Greece perturbed, when, to avert the wrath of heaven, we may be called on to spill blood most precious, Achilles thinks of love, and love alone? Will he so rudely flout the general fear? And shall the Grecian leader so provoke the fates as here and now to celebrate a marriage feast? Ah! Is it thus thy soul with patriotic fervour shares the woe of Greece?
Which loves her more, thou or myself, our deeds shall prove on the wide plains of Troy. Till then I leave thee to display thy zeal, nor will I interrupt thy pious prayers on her behalf. With victims load the altars, thyself consult the entrails, and inquire why Aulis imprisons all the winds. But I, resigning all such cares to Calchas, must crave thy kind permission to dispatch a marriage inoffensive to the gods. But thirst for glory will not let me rest. Soon on this strand I will rejoin the Greeks. 'Twould vex me sorely if another foot than mine should first land on the Trojan shore.
Oh, why does heaven, with secret envy stirred, close all approach to Asia 'gainst such heroes? Have I beheld so noble a display of zeal, but to return more sick at heart?
Gods, how is this?
What dost thou dare to say?
That each and all brave prince must hence retire, that lured too long by hopes that have deceived us, we vainly wait for winds that will not come. Heaven shelters Troy, and signifies its wrath by supernatural obstacles that bar our passage thither.
By what sign has heaven declared its wrath?
Thou knowest thine own fate, predicted by the gods. Forgive my freedom. To thee have they assigned great Ilium's fall. But, as the price of such a glorious conquest, thy tomb is marked out on the plains of Troy. We know thy life, that else were long and happy, is destined there to perish in its prime.
Shall then so many kings, met to avenge thee and thine house, turn home disgraced and shamed for ever? And shall Paris, in his love triumphant, keep unharmed thy consort's sister?
Has not thy valour, prince, outstripping ours, sufficiently avenged our wounded honour? Unhappy Lesbos, by thine hands laid waste, strikes terror into all the Aegean isles. Troy has beheld the flames, and to her ports the waves have rolled charred beams and mangled corpses. Nay more, the Trojans weep another Helen, whom to Mycenae thou hast sent a captive. For 'tis in vain to keep that birth a secret, which pride and beauty in each glance betray. Her very silence marks nobility, and tells us her illustrious origin.
No, no, all this is plausible evasion. Dim in far distance are the secrets known to heaven. Shall I be daunted by vain threats, and shun the path of honour in thy track? The fates, 'tis true, when to a mortal's couch my mother came, warned her my choice would lie between a life long and inglorious, or else an early death with fame to follow. But since I soon or late must reach the tomb, shall I, a useless burden on the earth, and chary of the blood a goddess gave, wait with my father for obscure old age, and, scorning glory, leave behind no name to outlive death? Away with obstacles unworthy. Honour speaks, it is enough. This is my oracle. The gods command our span of life, but in our own hand rests our glory. Why should we torment ourselves with what belongs to heaven? Be it ours to rival the immortals, and, let fate act as it will, embrace the course that leads to destinies as mighty as their own? That goal is Troy. And, warn me as they may, I ask no other boon than winds to waft me thither. And though I alone should wage this war, Patroclus and myself will wreak your vengeance. But not so, to thee is given the task. I only crave a follower's place. No more I urge approval of the passion which for a time would part me from these shores. That very love, careful of thy renown, prompts me to stay, and by a firm example encourage all the army, nor consents to leave thee to be swayed by timid counsels.
Scene 3. Agamemnon, Ulysses.
You hear, my lord, whatever price it cost, he is resolved to speed his course to Troy. We feared his love, and, happily mistaken, today he arms our hands against himself.
Alas!
What must I deem this sigh portends? Is it a protest of reluctant nature? And has a single night sufficed to shake your purpose? Did your heart speak in the words just heard? Think well. You owe to Greece your daughter. Your word is pledged to us. And on that promise, Calchas, relaying to the Greeks, foretells the sure return of favorable winds. If the event conflicts with his prediction, think you that Calchas can continue silent, that he will be persuaded to allow the gods are false, without accusing you? Who knows what, in their wrath that seems them just, the Greeks may do, defrauded of their victim? Beware of forcing an indignant people to make their choice between the gods and you. Was it not you yourself whose urgent voice summoned us all to far Scamander's banks, from town to town appealing to those oaths which Helen's suitors took in former days, when all your brother's rivals throughout Greece sought her in marriage from Tyndareus her sire? Whatever bridegroom she might choose, his right we then swore stoutly to defend, and should his prize be stolen, we engaged to bring him the presumptuous robber's head. But without you, that oath which love imposed would with that love have passed and been forgotten. You made us loose the later ties that bound our hearts to home, leaving our wives and children, and when, assembled here from land and sea, the eyes of all flash vengeance for your sake, when Greece, already voting you her leader, owns you the author of this grand enterprise, when all her kings, who might dispute that rank with you, are ready in your cause to risk their very lives, lo, only Agamemnon refuses to buy victory and fame with a few drops of blood, and, sore dismayed, e'en at the outset, orders a retreat.
Ah, it is easy for a heart that knows no woe like mine to be magnanimous. But if you saw your son Telemachus approach the altar decked for sacrifice, that dreadful spectacle would make you blench, and we should see you soon exchange your scorn for tears, pierced with such grief as now I feel, and cast yourself 'tween Calchas and your boy. You know that I have given my solemn word, and if my daughter comes, she shall be slain. But if a happier fate, in spite of me, keeps her at home, or stops her on the way, then let these savage rites be urged no more. Let me interpret in my daughter's favor this obstacle, and welcome it as sent by some kind God who watches o'er her life. Your cruel counsels have prevailed too far, and now I blush.
Scene 4. Agamemnon, Ulysses, Euripides.
My lord,
Ah, with what message come you?
the queen, whose steps my haste outstripped, will soon consign your daughter to your arms. She now draws near, but for some time she lost the way within these woods around the camp. Amidst her gloomy shades we hardly found again the right direction we had quitted.
Good heavens!
She also brings young Eriphyle, who fell into Achilles' hands in Lesbos, and comes to Aulis, as she says, to ask of Calchas what her unknown destiny may be. Already are the tidings spread of their approach, and an enchanted crowd admiring view Iphigenia's charms, and cry aloud to heaven with ceaseless prayers to bless her. Some greet with respectful homage the queen, while others fain would learn the cause which brings her. But they all alike confess that if the gods never enthroned a king more glorious, or with equal favours crowned, never was father happier than yourself.
Enough, Euripides. Now you may leave us. I must consider what is to be done.
Scene 5. Agamemnon, Ulysses.
Just heaven, 'tis thus, making thy vengeance sure, that thou dost break the web vain prudence spins. Would that I were at least free to let fall tears that relieve the anguish of the heart. Sad destiny of kings, slaves that we are to fate's severity in men's opinions. We see ourselves beset with witnesses, and the most wretched do not dare to weep.
I am no stranger to a father's weakness. My own heart tells me all that thou must feel, and, sympathizing with each troubled sigh, I am more disposed to share than blame thy tears. But now no plea is left for love to urge with justice. Lo, the gods have brought their victim to Calchas, and he knows it. If she tarry, he will not fail himself to come and claim her. Are we not yet alone? Indulge thy grief. Check not the tears that tenderness extorts. Mourn for the maiden's blood, mourn. But to soothe thine anguish, think what honour thence will spring. See Hellespont all white beneath our oars, and faithless Troy in flames, her people led in fetters, Priam prostrate at thy knees, and Helen to her spouse by thee restored. See the gay garlands on each lofty stern of our triumphant fleet, with thee return to Aulis here, in glory that shall be the theme of countless ages yet unborn.
I know too well 'tis useless to resist. Go, and the victim soon shall follow thee. But silence, Calchas, until all is ready. Help me the dreadful mystery to hide, while far from sight so sad a mother's steps I guide.
End of Act 1. Act 2 of Iphigenia by John Racine, translated by Robert Bruce Boswell. This is a Librivox recording. All Librivox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Scene 1. Eriphyle, Doris.
Let us relieve them of our presence, Doris. while in the arms of father and of husband they vie in demonstration of their love, thus setting free my sorrow and their joy.
Why, madam, acting as your own tormentor, give you yourself up to tears and misery? All is displeasing to a captive's eyes. Joy vanishes with liberty, I know. But when in sorer straits we crossed the waves against our will, with him who conquered Lesbos, when in his vessel borne, a timid thrall, you saw the victor who in human blood had waited, from your eyes fell fewer tears, and sorrow was not then your sole employment. Now all smiles brightly. Sweet Iphigenia is bound to you by ties of true affection. She pities you with all a sister's love, and e'en at Troy you would not meet such kindness. You wished to see the place to which her father called her, and here at Aulis you arrive with her. Yet, strange fatality, your grief seems to increase with every step we take.
Nay, strange 'twould be if hapless Eriphyle could be a calm spectator of their joy. Think you that my dejection ought to vanish at sight of happiness I may not share? I see a daughter in a father's arms, the pride and glory of a mother's heart, while I, exposed to perils ever new, indebted from my cradle to the care of strangers, live since first I saw the light without the comfort of a parent's smile. I know not who I am, and worst of all, a dreadful oracle to ignorance attaches safety, saying that the day that brings to light the source from which I spring must see me perish.
Nay, pursue your search undaunted. Heaven delights in mystery and hides its meaning under strange disguise. Losing a false name, you will thus regain your own. No other danger need you dread. 'Tis thus that Eriphyle is to perish. You know your name was changed in infancy.
Naught else about myself to me is known. Your poor ill-fated sire, who knew the rest, never vouchsafed me any further light. He said my proper rank should be restored to me in Troy, whither, alas, I thought to go invited, and resume the name derived from royal ancestors. Already I seemed to look upon that famous city, but heaven brought to Lesbos fell Achilles, and all gave way before his dire attack. Your father, buried 'neath a heap of slain, left me a captive, to myself unknown, and there remain of all my promised greatness to me, the slave of Greeks, naught but the pride of noble blood which I am powerless to prove.
In slaying such a faithful witness, how cruel, madam, must that hand appear which did the deed! But Calchas, famous Calchas is here, who reads the secrets of the gods. They deign themselves to teach him, and he sees the future and the past alike unveiled. He cannot fail to know your parentage. This camp itself is full of kind protectors. Wedding Achilles, soon Iphigenia will offer you a home beneath his care, as promised in my presence and confirmed with oaths. She looks for this as the first pledge of faith from him.
What would you say, dear Doris, if of my woes this marriage was the worst?
What, madam?
It surprises you to see that my distress refuses consolation. Listen, and you will marvel that I live. To be a stranger, captive and unknown e'en to myself, is but of light affliction. Achilles, author of the woes of Lesbos, of thine and mine, who took me prisoner, who snatched your father from me, and with him the knowledge of my birth, whose very name should make me shudder, is of mortals dearest to me.
Oh, what is this you say?
I thought to let eternal silence hide my weakness, but when the heart is full, it overflows, and once for all I make a true confession. Ask me not on what slender hope relying I learned to entertain this feigned love. I cannot charge there with any false pity that my misfortunes seem to waken him. The gods without a doubt take cruel joy in shooting all the shafts of their ill will at me. Shall I recall the dread remembrance of that sad day which cast us both in chains? Long in those hands that tore me from my home I laid in darkness, lifeless and despairing. At last my wan eyes sought the light of day. Seeing myself seized by an arm inured to blood, I trembled, Doris, and I feared to meet a savage conqueror's frightful frown. I went on board his vessel, holding him a hateful monster that my eyes were loath to look on. I beheld him. In his face I saw no fierceness. On my lips reproach remained unuttered, while against myself my heart declared, and all my wrath forgotten, I could but weep to such a gentle guide submissive. Loved at Lesbos, no less dear is he at Aulis. Offers of protection, of sympathy and succor, all are vain. So works the madness that torments my heart. Iphigenia's proffered hand I take, only unseen, to arm myself against her and thwart the happiness I cannot bear.
How can a feeble spite avail to harm her? Were it not better never to have left Mycenae than to encounter torture here, struggling against a hopeless, hidden flame?
I wish to stay, my Doris, but the more I shun the picture of her triumph here, so sad to me, fate drew me to these shores. I heard a secret voice that bade me come and whispered that my presence might relieve my aching heart, and, on their joy intruding with near approach, some shadow of my woe might fall, perchance, on them with fatal blight. That is what brings me hither, not impatience to learn whom I owe a birth so wretched, or rather that their marriage may to me serve as the sentence that shall end my life. Yes, Doris, I will die. A sudden stroke shall bury in the darkness of the tomb my shame, heedless of parents still unknown, whom my infatuation has dishonored.
Oh, how I pity you! What tyranny!
Lo, Agamemnon and Iphigenia.
Scene 2. Agamemnon, Iphigenia, Eriphyle, Doris.
Whither so fast away? What urgent need calls thee, my lord, so soon from our embrace? To what shall I impute this hasty flight? With due respect, I yielded to the queen the earliest greeting. May I not in turn detain thee for a moment, and display the joy that—
Yes, my daughter, let thine arms clasp me. Thy father has not ceased to love thee.
Dear is that love to me. How I rejoice to see thee, in new majesty resplendent. What power and glory! Fame had told already a tale of wonder which had reached our ears. But seeing close at hand a sight so welcome, how my surprise and pleasure are increased. Ye gods, how Greece must love and honor him! What bliss to be the child of such a sire!
Daughter, thou didst deserve a happier father.
What happiness is wanting to thy wishes? What king to greater honors can aspire? Are not my thanks only, due to heaven?
Agamemnon aside.
Great gods, shall I prepare her for her fate?
Why dost thou hide thy face, my lord, and sigh? It seems to pain thee but to look on me. Have we by thee unbidden left Mycenae?
I see thee, child, with the same eyes of love as ever, but, with change of time and place, gladness is overmatched with anxious thoughts.
Father, forget the cares of office now. I know we must be parted, and for long. Thou needest not blush to give a father's love a moment's sway. Thou seest that none is near but a young princess who has heard me boast thy tenderness to me. 100 times I promised thou wouldst love her for my sake, and made no secret of my happiness. What will she think of this indifference? Have I buoyed up her wishes with false hopes? Wilt thou not clear this trouble from thy brow?
My daughter.
Speak, I hear.
Ah, no, I cannot.
Perish the Trojan prince who caused these ills.
Ere that may be, 'twill cost us many a tear.
The gods with special care watch o'er thy life.
Long have I found them cruel and unheeding.
Calchas, I hear, a solemn sacrifice prepares.
Ah, might I first their hearts incline to mercy?
Will it soon be offered?
Sooner than I could wish.
Shall I be free to join my prayers with thine? Shall thy glad family surround the altar?
Ah,
Why art thou silent?
thou shalt be there, my daughter. Fare thee well.
Scene 3. Iphigenia, Eriphyle, Doris.
What am I to expect from this sad greeting? The secret horror makes my blood run cold. Against my will I dread some ill unknown. Just gods, ye know whose safety I implore.
Mid anxious cares that needs must overwhelm him, does but a little coldness make you tremble? Alas! What reason then do I have to sigh, who never knew a parent's tender care? Cast among strangers from my very birth, not even then perchance welcomed with looks of love. If your affection by a father is scorned, at least you have a mother's breast whereon to weep. Your woe is not so keen but that a lover's hand can dry your tears.
I'll not gainsay it. Grief itself must yield, ere long before the efforts of Achilles. His love, his valor, I, a daughter's duty, give him just claim over my heart and soul. But of himself I know not what to think. This lover, so impatient to behold me, whom nothing could induce to leave these shores, till from my distant home a father called me to be his bride. Where is the eagerness with which I deemed him waiting to receive me? For 2 days past, as every hour we came nearer this place, which I so wished to see, I thought each timid glance would light on him, with which I scanned the ways that led from Aulis, sending my heart far in advance to meet him, and asked of all I saw, where was Achilles? At last, without his escort, we arrive, jostled and stared at by a crowd of strangers. Still, he appears not. Agamemnon seems afraid to let his lips pronounce his name. Where is he? Who can solve this mystery? And shall I find the lover no less cold than the sad father? Have the cares of war extinguished in all hearts the warmth of love? But no, unjust alarm wrongs his devotion. 'Twas I who urged him to assist the cause of Greece. He was not present when at Sparta all Helen's suitors to her father took their solemn oath. Alone of all the Greeks, unbound by any pledge, if against Troy he sails, 'tis for my sake. Myself the prize sufficient, wedding me, thither he flies.
Scene 4. Clytemnestra, Iphigenia, Eriphyle, Doris.
My daughter, we must hence without delay, and save by flight your honour and my own. I am no more astonished that your father seemed overwhelmed with sorrow and confusion at seeing us again. Wishing to spare the insult of rejection, he by Arcas had sent this letter, only just received, for as we went astray he failed to find us. Come then, and let us save our wounded honour. Achilles, it would seem, has changed his mind about your marriage, and declines the favour we would bestow, postponing the espousals till his return.
What do I hear?
This insult flushes your cheek. Let pride your courage arm. Though of his suit approving, it was I myself who promised you to him in Argos, moved by the fame of his nobility to wed you to the offspring of a goddess. Yet since his base repentance now belies birth so divine as rumour has reported, it rests with us to show him who we are, and see in him the lowest of mankind. Shall we by staying longer make him think we wish and wait for the return of love to his cold heart? The nuptials he defers, Let us dissolve. Your father has been told of my intent, and comes to take farewell. I must make ready for our prompt departure.
To Eriphyle.
I do not urge you, madam, to return with us. In dearer hands I leave you here. Your secret schemes have come to light, nor was it Calchas who drew your willing steps to Aulis.
Scene 5. Iphigenia, Eriphyle, Doris.
In what despair and woe these words have left me. Achilles then is fickle in his love. I must go back to Argos in disgrace. And 'tis not Calchas you are seeking here.
Madam, I fail to understand such speech.
Nay, you can comprehend me if you will. Fate's cruel sentence robs me of a husband. Will you abandon me to my misfortune? You could not stay without me at Racine. Are we to start from Aulis without you?
I wish to see the prophet ere I start.
Why do you then delay to let him know it?
A moment more will see you on your way.
A moment sometimes clears up many doubts, but I am pressing you too closely, madam. I see what I was loath to think. Achilles, in your impatience to get rid of me...
You suspect me of this treachery? How can I love the cruel hand that crushed me, dyed crimson in the blood all of my kin, that lit the blazing torch and laid in ashes Lesbos?
Ah, yes, you love him, base deceiver. The savage conduct that you paint so well, those arms that you have seen stained red with gore, fury, and flames, and Lesbos burnt to ashes, all these have stamped his image on your heart. And far from shuddering at their remembrance, it even gives you pleasure to repeat them. When your complaints were loudest, more than once I might have seen your thoughts, and so I did, but always with good-natured readiness replace the bandage from mine eyes removed. You love him. Ah, what fatal misconception made me receive my rival in mine arms. My heart I gave her blindly, and today pledged the protection of its perjured lover. Little I thought so soon to see her triumph, and be myself chained to her chariot wheels. The selfishness of passion I can pardon that robs me of the heart I deemed mine own, but not the treachery that laid a snare to catch me, and then suffered me, unwarned, to step therein, finding thus, far from home, no ardent welcome, but a cold repulse.
This charge is one that fills me with surprise. I have not been accustomed to such words, and though the gods have long pressed hard against me, as yet they spared my ears a wound so grievous. But some excuse is due to love's injustice. What warning would you wish me to have given? Can you suppose Achilles would prefer to Agamemnon's daughter one who knows naught of her birth save that within her veins flows blood such as Achilles burns to shed?
You triumph, cruel one, and flout my wrongs, making me feel my misery the more. Why with the honors of my birth compare your exile, but the better to enhance your victory unjust? But curb your transports. This Agamemnon whom you choose to mock holds sway over Greece, yet condescends to love his daughter, and resents her injuries more warmly than herself. My tears in prospect moved him to sighs he sought in vain to stifle. Alas, his gloomy greeting I condemned, and dared to blame his want of tenderness.
Scene 6. Achilles, Iphigenia, Eriphyle, Doris.
Can it be so? Is it yourself I see? I thought that all the camp had been deceived. You here in Aulis. With what purpose come you? I heard another tale from Agamemnon.
Be of good cheer, my lord. I shall not thwart your wishes, and shall soon be gone again.
Scene 7. Achilles, Eriphyle, Doris.
She flies from me. Am I awake or dreaming? Into what fresh distraction am I plunged? Madam, I know not if, without offence, Achilles may present himself before you. But if you will not scorn a foe's entreaty, if e'er his captive touched a chord of pity in him, you know what brings their footsteps hither. You know.
And does my lord not know it too? Did not your eager love a month ago desire their presence here without delay?
A month ago I was not here myself. It was but yesterday that I returned.
What? Was it not your love inspired the letter that Agamemnon to Mycenae wrote? Were you not smitten with his daughter's charms?
Aye, and more captivated now than ever. If wishes could have carried me to Argos, I would myself this journey have forestalled. Yet she flies from me. What has been my crime? I see around me none but hostile eyes. This very moment Calchas and Ulysses, with Nestor too, used all their eloquence in opposition to my love, and seemed to urge that honour had superior claim. What subtle scheme can they be hatching here? Am I a laughing-stock to all the army? I'll enter and extort from them their secret.
Scene 8. Eriphyle, Doris.
Ye gods who see my shame, where shall I hide me? Proud rival, thou art loved, yet dost thou murmur. Must I at once thy triumph and reproaches endure? Oh, rather. But I'm much mistaken, or over them a storm ready to burst threatens disturbance to their happiness. Iphigenia is deceived, Achilles mocked, Agamemnon groans. I'll not despair, and if my hatred finds support from fate, I shall know how to turn it to my profit. Nor weep alone, nor die without revenge.
End of Act 2. Act 3 of Iphigenia by Jean Racine. Translated by Robert Bruce Boswell. This is a Librivox recording. All Librivox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Scene 1. Agamemnon, Clitemnestra.
'Tis true, my lord, we should have gone ere now far on our way to Argos, where your daughter might weep for her disgrace, leaving Achilles and you in anger, had not he himself just now, astonished at our sudden flight, restrained us with such oath as could not fail to make us trust him. Urgent for the marriage we thought postponed, while love and wrath contended for mastery, disowning the false rumour, eager to know its author and confound him, banished suspicions which have marred our joy.
Yes, madam, with my sanction you may trust him. I recognize the error that deceived me, and share your joy to the utmost of my power. Would you have Calchas to my family? Unite him? Send your daughter to the altar. I will be there. But ere proceeding further, I wish to speak a word with you in private. You see how you have brought her to a place where all breathes war, not hymeneal songs. The tumult of a camp, soldiers and sailors, with spears and javelins bristling round the altar, offer a scene to swell Achilles' pride. But to your tender sight harsh and uncouth, shall Greece there see the consort of their king, bereft of dignity and royal state? Hear me, without you, let Iphigenia go to this marriage, by your maids attended.
What? Must I then to other arms confiding my child not finish what I have begun, and after bringing her from Argos hither refuse to guide her footsteps to the altar? Is yours to be a nearer place than mine by Calchas? Who will give her to Achilles, or order the procession as is meet?
This is not Atreus' palace, where you are, but a rude camp.
Where all submits to you, where Asia's fate is to your hands entrusted, where marshalled neath your sway I see the whole of Greece, where Thetis' son will call me mother. In what proud palace upon all the earth could I appear with more magnificence?
Deign, madam, for the sake of the immortals from whom we spring, to grant my love this favour. I have my reasons.
By those selfsame gods, deprive me not, my lord, of sight so sweet. Why should my presence here make you ashamed?
I had hoped more from your obliging temper, but since the force of reason cannot move you, and my entreaty has so little power, my tone must change to one of stern command. It is my will you do as I have said. Obey.
Scene 2. Clytemnestra.
What means he, cruel and unjust, thus from the marriage altar to debar me? Proud of new rank, forgets he who I am? And am I deemed unworthy to appear beside him? Or timid mid all his power, fears he that Helen's sister may bring scorn on him? Why should I hide me? Is it fair his shame should be reflected on my brow? But since it is his will, my own submits. Thy happiness, my daughter, makes amends for all. Heaven gives Achilles to thine arms, and I am overjoyed. But lo, himself.
Scene 3. Achilles, Clytemnestra.
Madam, all goes according to my wishes. Misunderstandings cleared, the king is pleased to trust my ardour, and, ere all is said, with warm embraces accepts me for a son. Few words expressed consent. But have you heard what joy your presence to the camp has brought? The gods will be appeased. Calchas proclaims their reconciliation in an hour. That Neptune and the winds our prayers will grant, soon as his hand the victim's blood shall spill. Already every ship with sails outspread is turned toward Troy, relying on his promise. As for myself, though love were gratified if heaven were still to keep its breezes back, though I must grieve to quit this happy shore, where soon for me the nuptial torch will glow, yet can I fail to welcome an occasion to seal our marriage bond with Trojan blood, and 'neath Troy's ruins bury the disgrace of one whose family will then be mine.
Scene 4. Achilles, Clytemnestra, Iphigenia, Eriphyle, Doris, Aegina.
On you, dear princess, all my hopes depend. Your father to our union yields consent, and at the altar waits. There take a heart already yours.
'Tis not yet time to go. With the queen's leave, my lord, I dare to ask a pledge your love should grant right willingly. On this young princess, for my sake, take pity. Heaven on her brow has stamped nobility. Her eyes bedewed with tears, she ever mourns her misery. You know it, for from you it came, and I myself, unjustly wroth, have made her more unhappy than before. I fain would counteract by timely help the wrong my words have done her, if I may. My voice I lend her now, I can no more. My lord, you only can undo your work. She is your captive, and at your command her chains will fall, and give my heart relief. Thus then inaugurate this happy day, nor let the sight of us increase her woe. Show that I am about to wed a king, who, not content to strike men's heart with fear, does not confine his fame to fire and sword, but, melted by the tears of one he loves, and in his hour of victory disarmed by grief, can imitate the gods from whom he springs.
Yes, sir. Assuage these poignant pangs. Lesbos subdued, your captive I became, but 'tis to push the rites of war too far to add the torment that I suffer here.
You, madam?
Yes, my lord. All else omitted, what punishment more dire can you impose than this of giving my sad eyes the pain of seeing those who persecute me happy? I hear on all sides threats against my people. I see an army raging to attack them. And now, to add a sorer wound, I see flames to devour my country in the torch of Hymen. Far from Aulis and from you, forever wretched and unknown forever, let me go hide a fate that claims compassion, whose bitterness these tears but half express.
Too much, fair princess. Come that, in the sight of Greece, Achilles may pronounce you free. This hour, to me more sweet than all before, shall gladden you with liberty once more.
Scene 5. Achilles, Clitemnestra, Iphigenia, Eriphyle, Arcas, Aegina, Doris.
Madam, all's ready for the solemn rite. Beside the altar the king waits his daughter. I come to claim her. Or more truly, sir, I come for her thy succour to implore against him.
Arcas, what is this?
Great gods!
Arcas to Achilles.
Thou, sir, and thou alone canst now defend her.
'Gainst whom?
His name I utter with regret. Too long already have I kept his secret. The knife, the fire, the fillet, all are ready, and were the stroke on mine own head to fall, I needs must speak.
Explain thyself. I tremble.
Speak, be it what may, and have no fear.
Thou her affianced husband, thou her mother, beware. Send not the princess to her father.
Why? What have we to dread?
Wherefore distrust him?
He at the altar waits to offer her in sacrifice.
Her sire?
His child?
My father!
Ye gods, what tidings!
What blind rage could arm his mind against her? Who could hear of it without a shudder?
Would that I could doubt it! By Calchas' voice the oracle demands her, refusing to accept another victim. The gods, who hitherto have favoured Paris, at this price only promise favouring winds and Troy's destruction.
Can the gods command foul murder?
For what guilt am I condemned to such a fate?
No more am I surprised that I should be forbidden to approach the altar.
Iphigenia to Achilles.
This, then, is my destined marriage.
The king devised these nuptials to deceive you. Deceived was all the army like yourselves.
See how I stoop to clasp thy knees.
Achilles raising her.
Ah, madam.
I loathe my royal dignity. Forget it. This sad humiliation suits a lot desperate, unless my tears can stir thy pity. A mother feels no shame thus at thy feet to fall. Alas, it is thy bride they snatch out of thine arms, whose tender hopes I nursed from childhood. 'Twas in search of thee we reached this fatal shore. Thy name brings her to death. Shall she go beg for justice from the gods, and clasp their altars for her sacrifice festooned? She has none other here than thee. Thou art to her a father, husband, heaven, her only shelter. In thine eyes I read unutterable grief. With him, my child, I'll leave thee. Quit her not, but wait for me. To faithful Agamemnon must I hasten, and overwhelm him with indignant fury. Calchas will have to find another victim. Or, if I cannot save my daughter's life, my neck shall first be offered to the knife.
Scene 6. Achilles, Iphigenia.
Madam, my tongue is silent, and my limbs seem palsied. Is it to mine ears that such words are spoken? Must a mother kneel and sue to me for thee, a queen fall at my feet prostrate? And, wronging me by fears unjust, has she recourse to tears to melt my heart? Thy life to me is dearer than to all besides. My faithful heart claims full reliance. No harm to thee can fail to touch mine honour. I answer for a life that to mine own is joined. But indignation moves me further. 'Tis little to protect thee, to revenge I run, and punishment for that vile scheme which dares to use my name for thy destruction.
Ah, stay, my lord, and deign to hear me.
What? Shall I endure so barbarous an insult? He sees me eager to avenge the wrong his sister suffered, knows that it was I who voted first for him to be elected commander over 20 kings, his rivals, and for the fruit of all my toil and care, my sole reward for victory that will bring vengeance and wealth to him with glory's crown, the height of my ambition was to hear thee call me husband. To be thine was all I asked of him. Yet, savage and forsworn, today he thinks it little to do outrage to natural affection, and to show me thy bleeding heart consumed upon an altar. Veiling this sacrifice with marriage rites, he would that it were I should lead thee hither, my hand should be his tool to hold the knife, thy promised bridegroom be thy murderer. Ah, how these bloody nuptials might have ended had I come one day later than I did. This very moment, in their ruthless power placed, thou wouldst search for me beside the altar in vain, then unforeseen the knife would fall, and dying thou wouldst blame me for deceit most base. Then must I, in the sight of Greece, claim satisfaction for such treachery. Thy husband's honour, madam, is with thine involved, and thou must needs praise mine intent. The cruel monster who has poured disdain on me shall learn whose name he dares to stain.
Oh, if thou lov'st me, and one last favour wilt grant, attentive to a lover's prayer, now is the time for me to prove it, sir. Bethink thee that this monster thou defiest, this barbarous, bloodthirsty, unjust foe, is still, whatever he may have done, my father.
Thy father? Nay, after this horrid scheme, I know him only as thy foul assassin.
He is my father, sir, once more I say it, yea, and a father whom I love and honour. Himself he holds me dear, and till today no tokens but of tenderness from him have I received. My heart, from childhood taught a daughter's duty, cannot but be grieved at words that would wound him. Far from being changed so suddenly as to approve thy rage, still less to fan this fury with my breath, believe me, it is only the excess of love for thee that suffered me to hear those hateful names with which thou hast assailed him. Why will you deem him so unnatural as not to groan at the impending blow? What father gladly would bereave himself of his own offspring? Why should he destroy me if he could save me? I saw him weep, believe me. Condemn him not, my lord, ere thou hast heard him. Alas, his heart already is with horror, sorely oppressed. Let not thy hatred crush it.
What, madam? Mid such subjects for alarm, are these the terrors that distress thee most? A cruel sire, how can I call him else, intends to slay thee by the hand of Calchas, And when my love his fury would withstand, thy sole concern is to secure his peace, to shut my mouth to pity and excuse. 'Tis I that do affright thee, and thy fears are all for him. So little has my care availed to reach thy soul and fix Achilles there.
Ah, it is cruel thus to doubt my love. Have I so long waited to make it known? Thou seest with what a calm indifference I have received the tidings of my doom, nor did my cheek turn pale. Would thou hast seen how just before, distracted with despair, I heard, when we arrived, a false report that thou hast proved inconstant. In what anguish, with what a torrent of upbraiding words, I blamed the spite alike of gods and men. Ah, hadst thou seen me then, thou wouldst not need to hear me say how much thy love is dearer to me than life. Who knows if heaven, provoked by my exceeding happiness, has willed its end? Alas, a flame so fair and bright seemed to uplift me to a higher sphere than earth.
My princess, live, if still to thee I'm dear.
Scene 7. Achilles, Clitemnestra, Iphigenia, Aegina.
My lord, unless you save us, all is lost, for Agamemnon fears to see my face, refusing me all access to the altar. The guards whom he has stationed there himself have on all sides forbidden me to pass. He shuns me, for my passion makes him quail.
Then, madam, 'tis for me to take your place. I'll see him and accost him face to face.
Ah, mother, whither will you go, my lord? What means you by unreasonable prayers?
Still must it be that first against yourself I have to fight?
My child, explain your purpose.
In heaven's name, restrain a frantic lover. Let us avert this perilous encounter. Your fierce reproaches, sir, would leave a sting too sharp. Exasperated love, I know, runs wild with rage. My father's jealousy brooks no control. Proud are the sons of Atreus. Leave it to lips more timid to address him. Surprised at my delay, doubt not that hither he will himself soon come in search of me. A mother's lamentations he will hear, and I, perchance, shall feel myself inspired with arguments that may prevent your tears. Your indignation quell, and let me live for you.
Since such is your pleasure, I submit. Let sound advice fall from your lips together, recall his reason, and persuade his heart not to destroy our peace and, more than ours, his own. In idle talk the precious moments I lose. From me not words but deeds are wanted.
To Clytemnestra.
Madam, I will do all I can to serve you. Go, seek your chamber, and take needful rest. Your daughter shall not die, so I predict, an oracle more sure than that of Calchas. Believe me, that as long as I draw breath, in vain the gods may have ordained her death.
End of Act 3. Act 4 of Iphigenia by Jean Racine, translated by Robert Bruce Boswell. This is a Librivox recording. All Librivox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Scene 1. Eriphyle, Doris.
How say you? What strange madness makes you envy Iphigenia's lot? Within an hour she perishes, yet never, so you tell me, were you more jealous of her happiness. Who could believe it? Where is heart so wild?
My mouth has never uttered a word more true. Never has her felicity so moved my anxious soul with envious unrest. Such danger were delight, but hope is vain. Did you not see her triumph? his concern. I saw and shunned tokens I could not doubt. This hero, terrible to all besides, who knows no tears but those he makes to flow, who steeled himself from infancy against them, and who, if rumor tells a tale of truth, sucked the fierce blood of lions and of bears. For her sake learns the language of alarm. Yes, she has seen him weep, his cheek turn pale, yet Doris pities her. What dire misfortune would I not suffer might those tears be shed for me? Though I were doomed to die like her within an hour. Die? Nay, believe it not. Think you Achilles is an idle dreamer, that, fearing for her safety, he will spare his boldest efforts to achieve her rescue? No. You shall find this oracle was spoken but to enhance his glory and my torment, to leave her fairer in his eyes than ever. See you not all that in her favor works? The fatal sentence has been kept a secret, and though the funeral pyre be now prepared, the victim's name is still unknown. The camp remains in ignorance. This silence, Doris, cannot but indicate a wavering purpose. What will he do? Has he a heart of iron to bear the attack of their combined entreaties, a mother's anger and a daughter's tears, cries of despair from all his family, his own affection ready to relent? Nor least Achilles' threats that never fell but to o'erwhelm. No, 'tis in vain that heaven condemns her. Misery is mine alone forever. If I followed my own impulse...
What's in your mind?
I know not what restrains my anger from revealing all the truth, divulging straightway what the gods have threatened, and publishing abroad the guilty plots laid to dishonor them and cheat their altars.
Oh, what a thought!
What joy if it were done! How would the Trojan temple smoke with incense if, in revenge for my captivity, I could arm Agamemnon against Achilles, and Troy forgotten, make them turn the sword whetted for her destruction on each other, and Greece, embroiled in civil strife by me, be sacrificed to save my countrymen.
I hear a sound. I think the queen approaches. Madam, compose your spirits or retire.
Let us go in and think how best my rage that heaven sanctions may confound this marriage.
Scene 2. Clytemnestra, Aegina.
It breaks my heart to see her, dear Aegina. She sheds no tears, nor trembles for her life, but all her care is to excuse her father, and to persuade me to respect the hand that slays her. Oh, what filial constancy! He, in return for love so tender, chides delay, and soon will ask of me the reason, still hoping to conceal his treachery. He comes. Let me not taunt him with injustice, but see if he persists in his deceit.
Scene 3. Agamemnon, Clytemnestra, Aegina.
What do you hear? Where is your daughter, madam? How is she not with you, as I expected? Why waits she? Did not Arcas bring my orders to send her? Is it you who keep her back? Do you resist my reasonable wishes? And, save by you conducted, can she not approach the altar? Speak!
If she must go, my child is ready. But have you, my lord, no reason for delay?
I, madam?
Have you forgotten naught?
The altar is prepared, and Calhus by its side, all as it should be.
My lord, you do not tell me of the victim.
What mean you, madam? Why should your concern?
Scene 4. Agamemnon, Clytemnestra, Iphigenia, Aegina.
Come, daughter, come. They only wait for thee. Come, thank a father who so loves his child that he himself will lead her to the altar.
What do I see and hear? Why weeps my daughter with downcast eyes, as if ashamed to meet mine own? What troubles thee? Thy mother too is weeping. Arcas has betrayed me.
Father, cease to be anxious. Thou art not betrayed. What thou commandest shall by me be done. Thy will it is to take the life thou gavest. I know it, and all subterfuge is vain. With heart no less submissive and content than when the bridegroom of thy choice I hailed, will I, if need be, an obedient victim, offer a guiltless head to Calchas's knife. And, since it is thy will, with due respect, yield the existence that I owe to thee. But if this dutiful obedience seem to merit in thine eyes some recompense, if thou hast pity for a mother's tears, let me be bold to say that, young and happy, I well might find life sweet enough to make me wish that it should not be snatched away. That cruel fate had not so soon cut short the thread of which so little has been spun. I, Agamemnon's daughter, it was I who called thee first by the dear name of father, and I, in whom so long your eyes delighted, have made thee thank the gods that name was thine. How often hast thou lavished fond caresses on me, nor scorned as weakness love so tender? Ah, with what pleasure did I make thee tell of countries that await thy conquering arm, and arguing thy triumph over Troy, I was already in my mind preparing glad welcome home. I little thought my blood would be the first that thou wouldst have to shed. It is not dread of this impending blow that makes me call past kindness to thy mind. Fear not, my heart is jealous of thine honor, nor will I make my father blush to own me. And, had I only to defend my life, I never would have raised fond recollections. But well thou knowest how on my sad lot a lover's and a mother's happiness depend. A prince, worthy to be thy son, trusted this day would light for him the torch of Hymen, and relying on my heart and on thy promise, deemed it one of joy. He knows thy purpose, judge of his alarm. Look on my mother, and behold her tears. Forgive these efforts to prevent the grief that I shall cost them if I die.
My daughter, too true it is. I know not for what crime the anger of the gods demands a victim, but they have named thee, and an oracle dooms thee to death upon an altar here. To guard thy life from this their murderous sentence, my love forestalled thy prayers. I will not say how often I resisted. Never doubt that love to which thou hast thyself borne witness. This very night, as thou perchance hast heard, I had revoked the order I was forced to write, and o'er the general good of Greece thou didst prevail. For thee I sacrificed my rank, my safety. Arcas from the camp went to forbid thine entrance. Heaven forbade your meeting, and frustrated my last hope of saving one condemned by its decree. Rely not then upon my feeble power. What can avail to check a rebel army, when heaven has given us up to their blind zeal, and frees them from a yoke that they resent? We must submit, my child. Thine hour is come. Bethink thee of thy royal rank and nurture. Alas, I need the counsel that I give. The death stroke that awaits thee will no less strike me. Then show thee worthy of thy birth, and put to shame the gods who have condemned thee. Go, let the Greeks, who to thy sacrifice consent, see in thy blood that shall be shed mine own.
Fit offspring of a fatal stock, thine is the blood of Atreus and Thyestes, thy daughter's murderer. There but remains one horror more, to serve her as a feast before her mother. Savage, this is then the gladsome sacrifice thou wast preparing with artful care? Did not thy hand refuse the infamy of writing a command so cruel? Why dost thou pretend to feel false distress? Think not that tears can prove a love that shrinks from bold defence in arms. Why has not blood been shed for her in torrents? What wreck and ruin tell of thy resistance? What field with corpses covered seals my mouth? Proofs such as these I would have had thee bring me of thine affection and desire to save her. A fatal oracle ordains her death? But what an oracle may seem to say, not always is its meaning. Can just heaven thirst for the blood of innocence, or be honoured by murder? If for Helen's crime her kin are punished, for her daughter sent to Sparta, so let Menelaus ransom the wife whose frailty in his eyes seems small matched with her charms. But surely it is madness to make thyself the victim for her sin. And why should I, smiting upon my breast, with my own flesh and blood pay for her folly? Does Helen, then, for whom such jealous fires were kindled, curse of Europe and of Asia, seem worthy of thine efforts to regain her? How often have we blushed to speak her name! Ere to his woe thy brother linked his fate with hers, she had been carried off by Theseus, who, as thou knowest and hast heard from Calchas 1,000 times, clandestinely unloosed her virgin zone, and pledge of that amour, a princess of her blood has been by her kept in concealment. But a brother's honour is the least cause of thy solicitude. That lust of empire nothing can extinguish, the pride of seeing 20 monarchs serve and fear thee, empire to thine hands confided. These are the gods who claimed this sacrifice from thee, who far from offering resistance dost make a barbarous merit of submission. Jealous of power that can excite their envy, thou dost not grudge to pay a heavy price from thine own veins, that so thou mayest quell all opposition to thy sovereign sway. Is this to be a father? Outraged nature revolts at this perfidious cruelty. A priest, surrounded by a brutal crowd, will on my child lay hands of violence, rend her bared bosom, and with curious eye for omens search her palpitating heart, while I, who brought her hither proud and happy, must needs go back alone and in despair? Still will the ways be scented with the flowers that 'neath her feet were scattered as we came. It shall not be that to her doom I brought her, or thou wilt have to add my death to hers. Ay, thou shalt never tear her from these arms while life is mine. No fears can shake my purpose. Ruthless alike as husband and as father, come, if thou darest, snatch her from the breast that nursed her. Go within again, my child, and for the last time heed thy mother's voice.
Scene 5. Agamemnon.
Such frenzied outburst might have been expected. These are the cries of anger that I feared, and I were happy if my harassed soul had nothing worse to dread than idle clamor. Alas, great gods, who have imposed this task, why were the feelings of a father left me?
Scene 6. Agamemnon, Achilles.
My lord, A strange report has reached mine ears, which I am slow to credit. It is said, and 'tis with horror I repeat the tale, this day Iphigenia is to die by thy command, that, stifling every instinct of pity, thou wilt give her up to Calchas, and that the maiden whom I thought to wed shall be by me conducted to the altar a victim, not a bride. So vile a part assigned to me, deceived as well as she by a mock marriage. What am I to think? Wilt thou not silence such offensive rumours?
I am not bound, my lord, to give account of my designs. My daughter knows not yet my sovereign will. When she shall be informed, thou too shalt learn what all the host shall hear.
Too well I know what fate thou dost reserve for her.
If known to thee, why ask it then?
Why ask? Oh, heavens, am I to believe thou darest to confess to so foul a crime? Dost think I will abet thy villainy, and let thee slay thy child before my face, forgetful of my faith, my love, mine honour?
But thou, who thus assailest me with threats, dost thou forget to whom thou speakest here?
Thou hast forgotten that it is thy daughter whom thou dost wrong, and whom I love.
Who gave thee charge of my family? Art thou her husband, to question my disposal of my daughter? Am I no more her father? May she not?
She is no longer thine. Vain promises shall not deceive me. While a drop of blood flows in my veins, her life is linked to mine. I will protect my rights based on thine oaths. Was't not for me that thou didst summon her?
Blame then the gods who ask her at my hands. Accuse the prophet Calchas, the whole army, Ulysses, Menelaus, most thyself.
Myself?
Aye, dost thou not complain to heaven daily for checking thee in thy desire to conquer Asia? Wast thou not offended at my just fears, making thy fury fill the camp? I showed thee how she might be saved, but thou canst think of nothing else than Troy. I would have closed the course thou fain wouldst run. Go, have thy wish, her death will open it before thee.
How, ye gods, can I endure this language that adds taunts to perjury? I, at the cost of her dear life, to wish to leave this shore? What has Troy done to me? What is my interest in her destruction? Deaf to the warnings of a goddess mother, nor heeding a distracted father's voice, why should I seek the death so oft predicted as there my doom? No ships e'er left's commander to plunder and lay waste Thessalian fields. No soft seducer to Larissa came to carry off my sister or my wife. What private grudge have I? What loss sustained? 'Tis but for thee, barbarian, that I go, though I alone of all the Greeks to thee owe nothing, and by my voice thou wast made their chief and mine. Did not mine arm avenge thee in Lesbos ere thou hadst this host assembled? And with what purpose are we gathered here, but to restore his wife to Menelaus? How long have I been thought so chicken-hearted as to let any snatch away from me the bride I love? Is then thy brother's right to punish such an outrage his alone? Thy daughter pleased me. I essayed to win her favour, and my vows of love were paid only to her. The prospect of our bliss made me pledge all to her, nothing to him, ships, soldiers, arms. Let him, if so he will recover Helen, seek the victory my blood must purchase. Priam, Paris, Helen, I know them not. I wished thy daughter's hand, and sail not else.
Fly then, to Thessaly return. Lo, I release thee from thine oath. Of others more submissive I shall find no lack to wear the laurels promised thee, to force the fates to grant their arms success, and see the day of Ilium's overthrow. Thy scornful speech tells me how dear a price for thy proud succour I shall have to pay. Self-constituted arbiter of Greece, thou fain wouldst leave me but an empty name. Vaunting thy valour, thou wouldst claim the lead, and make all Greece cringe to thy sovereign will. A benefit that serves as ground for censure is an offence. Less care I for thy valour than for obedience. Fly, thy feeble anger I fear not, and I snap all ties between us.
Be thankful for the single tie that holds my wrath in check. Iphigenia's father I still respect. Haply, without that name, great as thy power may be, such bold defiance were thy last utterance. Hear but one word. I have thy daughter and my fame alike to guard. If her thou art resolved to slay, thy sword must through this body carve its way.
Scene 7. Agamemnon.
Thus is it made impossible to save her? My child, unaided, had more power to move me, his saucy love, that thinks to make me tremble, will speed the stroke that he would fain prevent, no more demur. Defy his violence. My honour is at stake, and turns the scale. Achilles' threats settle my wavering heart. Pity would seem the consequence of fear. Ho, guards, advance!
Scene 8. Agamemnon, Euripides, guards.
My lord.
Agamemnon aside.
What shall I do? How can I give them orders so inhuman? For what fierce conflict must I make me ready? Who is this foe whom they are to arrest? A mother waits, intrepid, to defend her offspring from a father bent on slaughter. My troops, then I less cruel will respect the daughter of their king clasped in her arms. Achilles utters scornful threats. Does that lessen my daughter's dutiful submission? Has she been eager to escape the altar, or cried in terror at the stroke I wished to deal her? Why such wish, this impious zeal? What can it gain by sacrificing her? However glorious be the prize proposed, what bays can please me, watered with her blood? I wish to move the almighty powers of heaven. What gods can be more cruel than myself? I cannot do it. No, a father's love shall conquer, and compassion raise no longer a blush of shame. Yes, she shall live. But what? Shall proud Achilles trample on mine honour? His arrogant presumption, so puffed up, will think he made me tremble, made me yield. Vain cares perplex my mind. Can I not bring the haughty spirit of Achilles low? Let my child be a sight to vex his eyes. He loves her. He shall see her wed another.
To Euripides.
Go, call the princess and the queen, and say that they have naught to fear.
Scene 9. Agamemnon guards.
Great gods, if still determined to bereave me of my child, before your hatred what can mortals do? My love I know that fain would rescue her, but weighs her down. But such a costly victim is worth a second summons to obey the harsh injunction that on me ye lay.
Scene 10. Agamemnon, Clytemnestra, Iphigenia, Eriphyle, Euripides, Doris, guards.
Go, madam, go, be careful of her life. I give you back your child, a sacred trust. Hasten her steps far from this dangerous place. Arcas shall be your escort with my guards. His happy indiscretion I will pardon. All hangs on secrecy and quick dispatch. As yet no word have Calchas or Ulysses spoken. Beware they hear not of this flight. Let no one see your daughter. All the camp must think I keep her still, and send you home alone. Now speed you hence. May heaven content, with tears already shed, withhold her long from my sad eyes.
To his guards.
Follow the queen.
My lord?
Father!
Let Calchas, thirsting for her blood, be foiled. Delay not, and, to mask your flight, I will beguile him with some feigned excuse. I'll cause the fatal rites to be suspended, claiming a respite till this day be ended.
Scene 11. Eriphyle, Doris.
Follow me, Doris. Our way lies not there.
Go you not with them?
At last I yield. Achilles loves her. Thought that burns like fire, I will not carry hence the useless rage. I hesitate no more. I must destroy her, or die myself. Come, Calchas shall know all.
End of Act 4. Act 5 of Iphigenia by Jean Racine, translated by Robert Bruce Boswell. This is a Librivox recording. All Librivox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Scene 1. Effigenia, Aegina.
Hinder me not, Aegina. To the queen go back. The wrathful gods must be appeased. In wishing to deprive them of my blood, look what a storm they rouse, ready to fall. Consider how my mother needs your care. See how our flight is blocked by all the army. With what insulting gestures everywhere they flash their spear points in our very faces. Our guards have been repulsed. The queen has fainted. Ah, 'tis too great a risk. Detain me not. Why should I here await her feeble succor? Leave me to take advantage of this swoon. My father, too, if I must tell the truth, even while he saves my life, tells me to die.
Your father, madam? Why, what then has happened?
Achilles, in his zeal, may to the king have given offense, and he would have me share his hatred and commands my heart to make this sacrifice. Arcas conveyed his wishes. Aegina, he forbids me e'er again to breathe his name.
Oh, madam!
Cruel sentence. The gods are kinder. They but ask my life. Then let me die. But who is this I see? Heavens, 'tis Achilles.
Scene 2. Achilles, Effigenia.
Madam, follow me. Fear not the clamour of the crowd who press around this tent. They bay but cannot bite. Face them, and without waiting for my arm to strike, these roaring billows will be parted to give you passage. See, Patroclus brings with other captains in my train the flower of my Thessalian troops. Around my standard the rest are gathered with a wall of iron to guard you. There take refuge from the storm of persecution. 'Neath Achilles' tent let Calchas find you. What? And is it thus you welcome timely aid? Tears the sole answer to my appeal? Still look you for support to arms so weak? Delay not. Tears already have failed to move your sire.
I know it well, and in the death I am resolved to meet lies my last hope.
Death? Speak not of your death. Think of the oath which binds us to each other. And to cut short such foolish words, believe me, my happiness depends upon your life.
Nay, to a life so darkened by misfortune, heaven has not joined Achilles' happiness. Our love deceived us, and by fate's decree, my death will make you happier than my life. Think of the honors to be reaped, my lord, which victory offers to your valiant arm. That field of fame to which you all aspire is barren, if not watered with my blood. Thus to my father have the gods pronounced their will, and deaf to Calchas, he in vain struggled against it. Greece, with one consent, confirms the voice of heaven. Go to Troy. I will not be a hindrance to your glory. Redeem the credit of those oracles that promised your heroic aid to Greece, and turn your rage against her enemies. Priam grows pale already, and Troy trembles, dreading my death, in terror at your tears. Go, and within her walls, of men bereft, make Trojan widows wail and weep for me. This prospect lets me die calm and content. If life with my Achilles is denied me, I hope at least, in happier times to come, my memory to your immortal deeds may cling, my death the fountain of your fame, wherewith the stirring story shall begin. Farewell, dear prince. Live worthy of the gods from whom you spring.
No, no, we part not thus. In spite of cruel words, you cannot wish to serve your father by the sacrifice of love like mine. Vainly to death devoted, you try to make me leave you to your doom for glory's sake. In serving you, ambition finds honours and renown ready to hand. And what could win my favour if your safety be not secured by our intended marriage? My glory, no less than my love, says, live. Come, trust them, and, dear damsel, follow me.
Who? I, a rebel to my father's orders, worthy to die the death that I would shun? Shall I so disregard my highest duty?
You will but trust yourself to one whose claims were sanctioned by himself. He shall not rob me of what he once bestowed. Are oaths by him made to be broken? Was he not your father what time he made you mine, to be obeyed as strict his duty bids? Why do you heed him only when he has ceased to recognize his child? Too long you linger, and my fears...
Surely, my lord, you will not use constraint. Let not the warmth of passion so mislead you. You surely would not add to my afflictions this crowning ill, holding in less esteem my honor than my life. Spare me, my lord. Subject to orders I am bound to obey. Too long, sir, have I listened to your voice. It were unfair to press your victory farther, or else by my own hands set free from danger of the succor you propose. I would prefer self-slaughter to disgrace.
Ah, cruel maid, I say no more. Obey, and seek a death you deem so glorious. Offer your sire a heart wherein I read hatred for me more than respect for him. Just indignation fires my soul with fury. If you must to the altar go, then I will thither hie me too. If heaven thirsts for blood, its altars never will have reeked with more. To my blind love naught shall be sacred. The priest himself shall be the foremost victim. The funeral pyre by me thrown down, destroyed, shall in the blood of the vile butchers swim. And if, amid the carnage and confusion, your father should be wounded, fall, and perish, then, seeing the sad fruits of your respect, take to yourself the blame for every blow.
Cruel Achilles, he has fled and left me. Smite ye just gods who have decreed my death. Lo, here I am alone. End with my life this terror, and me only overwhelm.
Scene 3. Clytemnestra, Iphigenia, Euripides, Aegina. Guards.
Yes, I'll defend her against all the host. Cowards, will ye betray your injured queen?
No, madame. 'Tis enough for us that you have given command, and you shall see us fight till at your feet we fall. But what can hands so weak avail? Against so many foes, who can defend you? 'Tis no idle crowd raising a tumult, but the fatal zeal of the whole camp, where Calchas reigns despotic. Pity is banished, and severe religion its offering claims. The king sees himself stripped of power, and bids us to the torrent yield. Invincible Achilles would himself vainly oppose his valour to this storm. What will he do? Who can disperse these waves, foaming with rage, all ready to engulf him?
On me then let their impious zeal be proved, and rob me of what little life is left. Death alone can burst the knotted bands with which these arms of mine would fain unite us. My body shall be parted from my soul ere I will ever suffer. My child!
Under what baleful planet did you bear the unhappy object of a love so tender? What can you do in our forlorn estate? How can you struggle against gods and men? Will you confront an angry multitude? Ah, go not to a camp that has revolted against your husband, nor alone resist their will, lest, hailed in an unseemly manner by soldiers' hands, you offer to mine eyes, as fruit of wasted efforts, a worse sight than death itself. Go, let the Greeks complete their work, and quit this doleful shore forever. Linger not near, or on your eye may strike the flame uprising from the pyre that waits me. And, mother, if you love me, above all, never reproach my father with my death.
By whom your heart offered to cruel Calchas.
What efforts to restore me to your tears has he not made?
What treason left untried to trick me?
He but renders to the gods the gift they gave. My death bereaves you not of all the pledges of your mutual love. Your eyes will see my image in Orestes. Ah, may he prove less fatal to his mother. You hear the cries of an impatient people. Open your arms that in a last embrace our lips may meet. Take courage. To the altar, Euripides, conduct the willing victim.
Scene 4. Clytemnestra, Aegina, guards.
You shall not go alone. I am determined. But crowds press forward to arrest my steps. Traitors, come gratify your thirst for blood.
What would you do, dear madam? Whither haste you?
Alas, I waste my strength in fruitless efforts, rising from anguish but to sink again. How can I die so often and yet live?
Ah, madam, know you whose the crime and whose the treason? Know you what ungrateful serpent Iphigenia cherished in her bosom? 'Twas Eriphyle, by yourself brought hither, and none but she, who to the Greeks betrayed your flight.
The monster, offspring of Megera, cast out of hell to harbour in our arms. What, wilt not die, to punish crimes so foul? But where shall indignation seek a victim? Wilt thou not, placid sea, vast gulfs disclose, to whelm 1,000 vessels with their crews? When Aulis, casting up that guilty fleet, shall drive it forth out of the port that hides it, will not those selfsame winds, so long accused, cover thy surface over with shattered ships? And thou, O son, who in this land dost see and know the genuine son and rightful heir of Atreus, thou who didst refuse to light the father's feast, go back, as they have taught thee. Meanwhile, immortal gods, unhappy mother, my daughter, crowned with hateful chaplet, bares her throat, and in her father's hands are knives. See, Calchas treads on blood. Barbarians, stop! That blood is drawn from him who wields the lightning. I hear the thunder roar, feel the earth shake. Another crash. A god comes swift revenge to take.
Scene 5. Clytemnestra, Aegina, Arcas, guards.
Doubt it not, madam, a god fights for you. Achilles even now answers your prayers. He, forcing the weak barrier of the Greeks, stands at the altar. Calchas is dismayed. The fatal sacrifice is interrupted. The air resounds with threats, and to and fro men run with flashing swords. Around your child Achilles musters all his friends, devoted to save her. Agamemnon, loath to own his grief, whether to hide his eyes from that he dreads to see or to conceal his tears, covers his face. Come, speak while he is silent, and with wise words support your brave defender. He longs with his own hand, deep dyed in blood, to give you back unharmed the maid he loves. Himself he charged me to conduct your steps. Fear nothing.
Fear, say you? Oh, let us hasten. I dread no danger, will go anywhere. But, O ye gods, do I not see Ulysses? 'Tis he. My child is dead. Too late, too late.
Scene 6. Ulysses, Clytemnestra, Arcas, Aegina, guards.
No, your child lives. The gods are satisfied. Be of good cheer. Heaven deigns to give her back.
She lives. And is it you who tell me so?
Yes, it is I, who long against you both have thought it right to steal your husband's heart, who, jealous of the honor of our arms, by counsel stern have caused your tears to flow, who come, since heaven is now at last appeased, to heal the wound that I erewhile inflicted.
My child, good heavens, marvel most astounding. Our prince, what god restores her to my arms?
You see me, madam, at this happy moment, struck with religious awe, with joy and rapture. Never did day appear to Greece more fatal. Discord, already mistress in the camp, had spread a fatal blindness over all, and given the dread signal for the conflict. Your daughter, at the horrid sight alarmed, saw the whole host against her, on her side Achilles, only he, but armed with fury that daunted all and gave the gods themselves divided counsels. In the air arose a cloud of arrows. Blood already flowed, first fruits of carnage. Calchas in the midst stepped forth. Stern was his look. His bristling hair and wild eyes showed him mastered by the god. He cried, Achilles, hear me, hear ye Greeks. The god who by my voice now speaks to you explains his oracle, declares his choice. Another child of Helen's blood, another Iphigenia must be sacrificed here on this shore. Helen, erst carried off by Theseus, was with him in secret wedlock soon after joined, and from that union sprang a daughter, whom her mother hid. Her name Iphigenia. I myself then saw the infant, and foretold disaster dire threatening her future. Under a false name has fate and her own madness brought her hither. She sees me, hears me, is before your eyes. Yes, she it is whose life the gods demand. Thus Calchas speaks. In silence and in awe all listening stand and look on Eriphyle. She was beside the altar, in her heart perhaps impatient for the sacrifice, for she herself had gone with hasty steps to tell the Grecian leaders of your flight. All wonder at her birth and destiny. But since the sack of Troy hangs on her death, the army with loud voice declare against her, and ratify the prophet's fatal sentence. Already Calchas lifts his arm to seize her. "Stop there," she cries. "Approach me not. The blood of heroes whom you make my ancestors needs not your impious hands to give it exit." Then, springing wildly to the altar, snatches the sacred knife, and plunges it amain into her breast. Scarce has her life's blood dyed the earth, when peals of thunder from the gods are heard. Auspiciously the rustling winds begin to blow, the roaring sea responds, and the white breakers on the distant shore make moan. Self-kindled flames the funeral pyre, the heavens are opened, and the lightning's flash inspires a holy awe that reassures our hearts. Some say that, riding on a cloud, Diana to the blazing pile descended, that, rising then above the flames once more, she bore to heaven our incense and our prayers. All is astir. Soon all are gone. Your daughter, amid the general joy, alone deplores her enemy. Go, from her father's hands receive her. Longing to see you again, he and Achilles, henceforth reconciled, are ready to confirm the marriage contract.
How can the thanks I owe be paid to heaven, and to Achilles meet reward be given?
End of Act 5. End of Effigenia by Jean Racine, translated by Robert Bruce Boswell.